Hey everybody, welcome back to Palworld mod building. I'm Hexagon, and today I'm going to show you how to do angled structures. You've seen in some of my builds that I do octagonal buildings and things that aren't boxes, and I've gotten some questions. So today we're going to be building some angled structures, and I'm going to be using glass foundation because it's not a modded piece, and anybody just using rotated can follow along with this build. So we're going to drop us a glass foundation. Now if you're building in the air using the how to build a sky base method, this is going to be the same, except you're going to have to copy and paste the position of your parts into the air so that you can manipulate them. All the steps are going to be the exact same. You're just not going to be able to throw your foundation pieces down as you go. That is going to be a benefit of building on the ground. And for today's video, we are going to build on the ground. You just mix the two methods together and you'll be able to put any of this stuff in the air. So we're going to find ourselves a starting point here. And we're going to do a 2 wide, 4, well, let's do 8-sided, okay. And 8-sided is going to be simple because the only angles we really need to worry about are 45-degree angles, because that's going to be how we get our octagon. And this is going to work for any shape you choose. Keep that in mind. So we're going to start with here we're going to start with our rotation number right here. Is going to be negative 45.612 is where we're going to start. Because we want to do 2 and then a turn, 2, turn, and then we're going to continue that all the way around. We want really sharp angles. So what we're going to do is the quickest and easiest way to get to a 45-degree turn is going to be to add 45 points. So we're going to hit tilde, negative, and we're going to add 45, which is going to be 90.612. If you're standing on it like I was, it's going to turn. Now as you can see, it's perfectly turned. It's absolutely perfectly in alignment. So make sure you hit period and put your current move type back to translate, and then we're going to hold Alt and use our J, K, L, and I keys to finitely move these corners together to get our angle. If you don't want to move that finely, you can take Alt off and use L and move in larger increments, but you're going to want to use Alt when you get real close. There we go. And now we're going to use K. And you want to be careful, because if you don't line each of these sections up properly, what's going to happen is when you add walls, the walls are not going to line up. So I usually try to find some type of like structural point to make sure it matches. And I'm going to be using the inset diamond that the metal makes right here in the inset. This is what I'm going to be using to make sure I get my angles proper as we go. So now we have our first angle, and this is a really good example of why it's good to build on the ground. I moved the wrong one, but the good news is because both of these sides are going in the same direction. We're going to throw one down here and one down here. That's the benefit of building on the ground. You don't have the freedom of just throwing a foundation piece in the ground, especially with how often the no building restriction mod goes down. If you have that and it's active, that's fantastic. You can put your pieces in the ground without having to worry about it. But generally speaking, you'll have to put your stuff on the ground and lift it in the air if that's what you're going to do. So here's what we're going to do. Let's add another piece over here, and now we want to go 45 degrees in the opposite direction. Alright. So we know that we need to add 45 because turning this is going to add the number. Of course, that is going to be 189, but it's going to roll over. So we should be going to There we we go. But we can also do this the opposite way. You can remove 45 from this, which is going to be as well. Especially with foundation pieces, it's not that big of a deal, but it is a big of a deal when you start to use items like chairs and stuff, because which way you're rotating will matter to you. So let's get this together here. Of course, I'm going to be using this diamond to make sure I get everything together properly. There we go. Perfect diamond. And because we're doing too wide, I can put another foundation piece down. We are going to copy this all the way across. You technically only have to do half of this because you can copy and paste your angles from the other side. And just to show you that method, we are going to do that after we get our next angle. So we're going to drop down our next foundation piece, which needs to be turned. This is 89.388. Now, we just came back from 134. And it looks like we can actually, we might be able to use that again now. Let's see here. There we go. We can reuse the number that we already know from when we moved this other piece. Because this and this are on a square grid. And this and this are on its own square grid. It just happens to be rotated. So let's get this into position here. There we go. Diamond's looking nice. Now we're going to put down another foundation. But as you can see, at this point, we can start copying foundation pieces and moving them into position, which is what you'll be doing if you're building in the air. So we're going to use F5, copy our source information, go over to what we want to move, and press V to paste it. You're not going to see it, but make sure that yellow lock is on up at the top. And as you start to move it, you will see that it is moving on its own. And then instead of having to worry about numbers and positions, what you'll want to do is you'll just want to line up your foundation piece that you use to do your guidance. Drop another piece because we know that it's going to be too wide. Now we're going to be able to copy this one and bring it across as well. You can ride pieces. That's what I recommend to do if you're doing tall builds. There we go. Now we're going to bring over these pieces.
Yeah.
Lucy wants to help us. There we go. Now, when you end up with a situation like this, you will likely have to drag your other piece over because you're not going to have enough room to put them both down, and they're not going to play nice. So we'll keep our space open, and we're going to follow the same method. Copy the one across the way. And we're just going to copy that. There we go. Now this only gives us the border. And as you can see, if you're using glass, you can get some really, really cool geometric effects out of layering this. And you can fill the middle with anything you want. However, there are very strict limitations on what pals will path on. Meaning, if you use an item and make it large to make it the center of this circle here, what's going to happen is the pals will just path around the edge and will not come in the middle. That's really good if you want to do a planted center, or you want to do this over water and you want the middle of this to be water. All of that's really, really good news. Now the downside here, and what you'll need to manipulate, is because the outside does not overlap with each other, you can build nice with them. But on the inside border, all of the walls are going to overlap with each other. Now you're going to have to figure out, depending on what angle and size you're using, like what size structure and what angle you have your building at, how many sides you have, things like that. It's going to be important to keep that in mind. There we go. So what I recommend doing is, if you want the middle of this to be pathable, I would take, in this instance, because I don't want a bunch of foundation here in the middle. So this isn't gonna, this won't work out here. We're gonna take this and we're gonna drag this in. Alright, I'm gonna put down a roof piece. Because it doesn't have any rigging underneath it, it's gonna make for a better floor. We're gonna shift click it over once on the grid. And then we're going to back it up until it's in the center here, like this. Then I'm going to use my Y scale, thin it out a little bit. And then I'm going to use my shift scale to increase its size. And then alt and lower its height to where it's inset into our floor under the foundations like this. Now this is perfect pathing. Pals will be able to come down here. They'll be able to walk up. There's no movement restrictions on here, or building restrictions. Anything that you can build on a roof or a foundation will work perfectly fine in here. Now, let's say we wanted to put walls on the inside. As you can see, the size of these are not going to line up. Now, I generally find that I believe it's 0.6 width scale is what makes these line up. So let's reduce this to 0.6 and then move it over 4 clicks, because we reduced it by 4, so we're going to move it over 4, and that's going to line up there. Let's do the same thing over here. Without scaling this down, we're going to move this into position where it overlaps, and we're going to reduce this to 6 and move it over 4. Now, as far as the game is concerned, this is aligned. The walls overlap. It is a repeatable corner. This is what it'll look like. So to get a perfect wall on the inside, what you'll do is you'll just make each of these walls 0.6 in width. The thickness doesn't matter. You can make them super thin. You can make them super thick. It's completely to your liking. As long as you leave enough room for pals to path, then it is not a problem. Whatever you would like, you should make it. So let's go ahead and finish insetting these walls. All right, there. You can also do this. There's not going to be enough room to put 2 walls here, and we want them to be aligned. You can stack them. So what we'll do is we'll copy the position of this wall before we move it, and then paste it onto that one. Okay. Like that. We're going to hit paste. Reduce it by 4. Move it over. Copy that, move it back over, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're just going to copy this process all the way around. Now you can do half walls, you can change your materials, you can do whatever you want. This works great for hallways, stairwells, all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, it's really good if you're trying to do ceiling detail or railing like on a second story. Once you're familiar with this, it will go much faster. Well, for fun, we'll leave it open on just this one side. So let's fill in this last two walls. Alright, there we go. Now, we have this cool opening to the very center, and for fun, let's hit R to reset the information on this part. It will go back exactly where it was built over here. It is now no longer in the way, and you see we still have our walls here. So what we'll do is we're going to use one of my very favorite mods that you guys know. We're going to use my tree asset replacement mod. We're going to drop us a tree right here in the center because y'all know how it has to be. Let's really Alright, now you see it's going to clip. Let's make this bigger. There we go. That's what we like around here. And now we have the start of something really cool. Now we have this door that's offset in the front. Now we're going to use the same scaling method that we used on the inside to center this door within the grid. So let's go ahead and drop down what we're going to need, which is going to be a staircase just to get in the door. And we're going to need one more wall. So what we know is that 1/2 of the scale is 5. So if we reduce the scale of this wall to 5 and then move it over 5 pieces, or I'm sorry, 5 steps, as you can see, the wall above it is exactly half the width, but consumes the same space. Now we just take our door and do one shift click over, completely perfectly within the grid. Now you have a few ways you can do this, but the fastest way, because this half scale wall is already on the grid, let's copy its information and paste it. And then we're going to use Shift and K to slide this back over. Now these are, like I said, these are perfectly within the grid. And now we're going to do the same thing with the stairs. We're going to shift it over just in front of the door. And now we have a centered door on an octagonal building with a little inset atrium situation. Of course it would be if you were to put a ceiling on here. And the ceiling will work the same way as the walls. A lot of the time it won't want to line up like this. But you can use your slide trick, your shift slide trick, to get it over here, even if you can't actually build there. So nothing to worry about there. There we go. And if you repeat that process, you'll be able to put a roof on this and you'll have a completely enclosed area. Or you'll be able to at least be able to make angled features on your building. For example, this could just be a front corner on your big square building, and now you just have these really nice fancy towers on the front corners, the back corners. However you want to do it, this is how you do it. This has been Hexagon, Palworld mod building, how to build angled structures. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you guys, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial.